Здравствуйте, товарищи, and welcome to another coffee house video for you. And I don't know where I'm going to go with this video. I've got an idea I really want to talk about, but I've still got a whole bunch of different things in my head that I'm trying to connect and trying to bring it forth in a more presentable manner. But I'm just going to start it. I don't know where it's going to end, but I hope you'll forgive if there's any kind of rambling or some things are left unconnected. That's kind of the purpose of this whole channel. But that being said, I hope you might forgive any loose ends that are left. But before I get into what I want to talk about, I want to talk about it's been a while since I brought a crazy drink onto these vlogs or anywhere else on my YouTube channel, and I used to do it a lot. But today I've got something weird for you. Me and my girlfriend were out, and there's a very high Middle Eastern population here. There's people from Syria and Jordan and Iraq and Iran, and lots of different people from all in that area all live near here in Vancouver. And it's great because I get to talk to these people, and I get to talk to natives. Like, I get to talk to native Iraqis about what they think about American intervention in their country. They don't like it. And I get to talk about people from Iran about their home regime and that kind of stuff. And it's really fascinating to get people's opinions from other countries. But what I got here is we went into a Persian food market, and I got this crazy, ridiculous drink I found. I'm pretty sure it says something up here that I think is in Arabic, but in English it says Iztak, non-alcoholic malt beverage peach. Then there's a bunch of Arabic writing on it, and I've been trying it, and it's interesting. It's weird though. Really bizarre. Anyway, but that's not what I want to talk about. The idea that I had in my head, that I was thinking about, is, I guess there's no other way to say it, so I'll just come out and say it, is Christianity rising to dominance over all religions a historical inevitability? And from my perspective, that's the idea I had, and that's the question I had. And from my perspective, I don't think anything is a historical inevitability. Nothing is written in stone. People like to think like that because, history is the way it is, and we've got this idea that history is unchangeable, it's rock solid, but in reality, history could have gone a number of different ways, and it wasn't set in stone. Just think about, for looking back, a couple days ago, is what I did a couple days ago set in stone? No, it's not. The future is this unknowy, kind of cloudy, murky entity. So history is not set in stone. Whenever somebody says to me, something is a historical inevitability, they're almost always 100% of the time completely wrong. Because things, like I said, could have gone a number of different ways. And for this I'm going to argue why I believe that Christianity rising to dominance was not a historical inevitability. And then near the end I'm going to tell you what that means. At least to me. And you can go back history for, a number of different points and go as back and as far as you want. But the place I'm going to start off, and the place that I think is really the kind of a tipping point for me in whether or not, this was a historical inevitability, was the Battle of Kenny. And for those of you who don't know, the Battle of Kenny is Hannibal's masterstroke. We all know when Hannibal Barca crossed the Alps and, attacked the Romans, and he essentially kicked their asses in 2 battles previously to this. But Kenny is really what made him. This is the battle that military historians just geek over. Because we still today don't exactly know how in the world he pulled it off. Most people, if you talk to, these modern military historians, believe this kind of battle is impossible. Because at the Battle of Kenny, Hannibal was outnumbered 2-1 by the Romans. And what he did, Romans thought they were going to kick their ass, but what he did was he was able to surround the Romans and surround this entire army of 90,000 guys and crush them and essentially obliterate them. And most people believe that the smaller force is not supposed to and can't surround the larger force. But Hannibal pulled it off brilliantly and destroyed this huge Roman army. And then he had already, that comes on the heels of 2 major decisive defeats at the Battle of the Trebia and Lake Trasimene. So at this point, Hannibal has killed almost 200,000 Roman soldiers. And after the Battle of Cannae, it was almost unthinkable that the Roman Empire would rise to dominance over the entire world. What happened was the Romans just kind of refused to quit. They refused to say no. They refused to capitulate. And also, Hannibal never actually marched on Rome after that battle. A lot of people think that if he had marched on Rome and he had started sieging the city, it didn't really have armies defending it or anything, that Rome would have fallen, and Hannibal would have won the Second Punic War. So let's take that perspective. Let's say Hannibal wins the Second Punic War. What Hannibal wanted to do, he didn't want to invade and annex Italy. He wanted to keep Rome as a regional power in Italy. He didn't want Rome to have this huge influence over the world and be this dominant power on the world stage. He kind of wanted, just to confine Rome to Italy, and that was it. And if Rome never rises to dominance, the Romans are largely responsible for putting in the Christian sort of norms that we know today and spreading it throughout Europe and throughout its empire. So if Rome doesn't rise to dominance, for one, Christianity definitely wouldn't look anything like it does today, and it wouldn't have been spread by this empire and would have been spread throughout the entirety of Europe. That also begs the question, well, if the Romans don't come to power, who does? And of course, the top dog to take that power vacuum is the Carthaginians. And the Carthaginians, to me, I don't think they weren't as aggressive as the Romans. I don't think they really wanted this big empire. They were, they wanted to take over lands and gain power and wealth and money, but they were much more of a commercial empire. They were much more about, trading and making money. They didn't even really have a standing army. Most of their armies were just, made up of mercenaries. And then at the end of the war, they would disband them, kind of deal. So, I don't think Carthage would have taken over as many places as Rome, and it wouldn't have this huge, expansive empire like Rome did. But it definitely, if Rome doesn't win the Second Punic War, Carthage is top dog on the block. And from that point, we can easily say that Christianity probably doesn't get spread throughout Europe and doesn't look anything like it does today. But if we go further and actually look at how Christianity took a hold in the Roman Empire, there were two guys really responsible for it. The first guy was Constantine I, who was the first Christian Roman Empire. And when he comes to power, he says, okay, well, Christians were not treated very well in the Roman Empire up to this point. They were treated like heretics and criminals and, killed and maimed and all these terrible things. And then Constantine comes to power and says, I'm the first Christian Roman Empire. I'm going to make this a tolerable religion. You guys got to stop treating these Christians so badly. And then the next guy, I don't think it was the next guy, but the next guy who really had a play in making Christianity the statewide religion of the Roman Empire, and the official religion was a guy, I'll probably massacre his name, I think it was Thelonious, something like that. Anyway, this guy comes to power and he says, okay, Christianity is the number one religion in the Roman Empire. We're not supporting the state religion anymore. Let's say goodbye to that. And then that begs the question, what if these two guys didn't come to power? What if somebody else comes to power? And Christians are still treated like heretics. They're still, treated like crap and suppressed and oppressed and all this deal and all these different kind of things. Does Christianity remain in obscurity? The Roman state religion is still supported? Are we still praying to Jupiter and Venus and Mars and Bacchus and all these kind of gods today? And are we still sacrificing animals and all that kind of deal today? Easily could have gone that way. And then, of course, you can keep going and arguing different points, like when Magellan circumnavigated the world as part of the sort of a Spanish fleet, and he brought Christianity to all these different places, and the Spanish and everyone else went over to the New World and brought Christianity there. The Europeans were not the odds-on favorite to circumnavigate the globe first. It was actually the Chinese. Then after that, it was the Arabs. So imagine if the Arabs were the first to reach the New World, And when Columbus gets there, there's mosques all up and down the coast. And instead of Christianity being the predominant religion here, Islam is. Could have easily gone that way. So my point is, I cannot fathom that Christianity rising to dominance is a historical inevitability. But what does that mean? To me, and this might be the part where I'm reaching the most, so hopefully you'll forgive me, but to me, that means that can't be the right religion. Because if it was the right religion, then God would have somehow ensured that it would be a historical inevitability. Because if it's not, and people don't believe in Jesus as the Savior and all these different things, and essentially everybody goes to hell. Now what if we're still going to argue and say that the whole Jesus story happened, but it just kind of fades into obscurity. Like, hundreds of other religions throughout time have faded into obscurity. And no one, really knows about it today except for a few select historians kind of deal. That essentially means everybody's going to hell because nobody believes Jesus was the Son of God and He's the Savior and that kind of deal. So the way I see it is God would have ensured that somehow, if this was the right religion, and this was the one that He wanted people to believe, and this is the one that's your ticket into heaven, that He would have made it a historical inevitability and not have had it go any other way. And, because if that's the right way the world is, that's the right way the world is, and that's obviously a historical inevitability. The one thing I will argue that is historical inevitability is that the truth will always rise to the surface. That eventually, the truth might be obscured at some points, but eventually it will break free and kind of rise up. So if Christianity is the real way, then it essentially would have to be a historical inevitability. But there's absolutely no way where I can fathom that that is true. So I think that's my rant for now. It's not really a rant. It's my point of view, I guess you could say. This is what I was thinking about, and this is the kind of chain of thoughts that led me to this conclusion. And agree with me. You might disagree with me. The good thing is you don't have to agree with me on this channel. You can leave. Well, if you really want, like I said, if you really want to get a response out of me, please send me something over Facebook. It's just much easier that way. It's just kind of more of a central hub for me than jumping back and forth between two YouTube channels. Facebook is this kind of like central hub that kind of ties the two together, and fans from both places can send me messages there, and I can easily, get back to you. So if you really want to bring something up, please send it to me through Facebook. I'll leave the information in the channel description. And for now, this has been Joseph, He's one of Stalin, signing off for now, and you guys take care.